This is the Stubble and Co Everyday 20-liter backpack. Sleek, minimalist, and built for the city, but is it actually good for everyday carry or creators? We're going to find out in today's review. So on paper, this looks like the perfect EDC bag, but there are a couple of issues like limited internal organization that might be a deal breaker for some. A little bit later, I'm going to test and see if they can handle a light photography or videography kit. Now, this isn't marketed as a camera bag, but if you're like me, you want your gear to pull double duty. So let's see if this minimal design can actually deliver. We're going to start with the exterior design and materials, then move on to the inside to see what fits. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this bag. Here on the front is a big open, like quick access style pocket. Now, this is one of my kind of main issues with this bag. I really wish that there was some internal organization here. Because this is just a big open pocket, you're really only going to be putting bigger items in here. You know, notebooks, papers, things like that. I have found it really difficult to use this big pocket for anything smaller. And just to give you a heads up on size, we are talking 8 inches and then maybe 8 inches this way. So it is a good size. I just wish it had some internal pockets. All right, here on the sides, this is a nice feature. We do have a water bottle holder here as well as on the side. So the fact that you get 2 is really, really great. You know, that means that if you are a photographer or videographer, you can put your tripod on one side and still have like an umbrella or a water bottle, something like that on the other side. So if you were to take something like this iron flask here, you know, that fits perfectly. Now, I will also mention that there are no external like stabilization straps. So if you are planning on putting a tripod in here, it is going to have to be something a little bit smaller. And in terms of height, we're talking 7.5, maybe 8 or so. All right, on the top, we do have a pocket here. And this is another kind of like quick access style pocket, but yet again, there's no internal organization. This is also very, very flat. I was using this a lot for like keys. It's a little small for something like a wallet. Like 2.5 inches maybe that you can fit like width-wise. And then length, we're talking like 7 inches. As a photographer, it would have been nice to have some smaller sleeves in here, maybe for like SD cards, things like that. But as it stands right now, no organization in there. On the back, we do have a luggage pass-through. So that's really, really nice. You have the logo embroidered here. I think that looks really, really cool. I do really enjoy the details that are on this bag. And then on the back panel, there is this really nice cushion fabric. I never really packed this bag completely out, but for the time that I did have it on, you know, I found it pretty comfortable. And then on the straps, it's that same fabric on the back. So I'll take this opportunity to just talk about the strap itself. While the backpack is comfortable, very often I would find the backpack straps like undoing themselves throughout the day as I was setting it down on the ground or setting it down on a table, something like that. Just the place where I had adjusted the bag to be comfortable for me would just end up undoing itself. I'm not sure if that's the material or if there's just something inherent to the design of the buckle. The material itself on the strap is like upgraded from like a standard student backpack. If you've seen some of my other reviews, you know, that's like a big thing with bags is they will either have seatbelt material or they will just have like that very standard nylon material. This does seem like a middle ground. So it is nice. There is some smoothness to it, but there is also some grippable texture. So I don't know that it's the strap material itself that's causing it to slip or slide. I think what Stubble and Co could do is maybe enact some type of locking system. So that way, once you put the strap into place where you like it, then it's just locked. And then if you want to adjust it, you just have to undo the lock. So if there was something like that, that would be great. On the straps themselves, you do have like one loop here. And something that I actually took off of mine is here, there was originally like a sternum strap that went across from side to side, and then you could clip those together. Again, for me, like I was really treating this as a smaller, minimal, everyday kind of bag, and I never really loaded this bag out enough to feel like I needed the sternum strap. You do have some branding here, and I think that looks really, really nice. I'm actually a big fan of the way that they do their branding. I think it's really nice. And then you have a small mesh pocket here. Something like earbuds can go in here. You're not really gonna get keys in here. And then I will also comment just like on the material itself. This material, I don't know if I can catch the light and show it, is like a coated style material. The zippers themselves are coated, so that's great. And then the material itself is like this coated nylon style material. So it is like kind of nice and smooth to the touch. I wouldn't say that it's slick. You know, there is some texture there and some gripability, but it's not sticky. So I'm a huge fan of the material that they chose on the exterior. And then if you didn't notice before, there is also some additional subtle branding down here at the bottom right. Now let's get into the interior. You do have double zippers, and the bag itself does not fully open, which can be a positive or a negative depending on things. But on the inside front panel, there's nothing going on here. But on this back panel, you do have a big open pocket here. Then below that, you do have another open pocket. So this first one is zippered, while the second one is not. It's just open. And then below that, you have an additional right side pocket. And then at the very, very bottom, this is going to be a little tough to show just because this backpack doesn't open all the way. But at the very, very bottom, you do have some mesh pockets, you know, maybe 4 inches wide and then like 3.5 inches tall. So that is pretty much it for interior organization. One more interior pocket. You do have a laptop pocket here that can accommodate up to like a 16-inch laptop, and nothing in there besides just a big open pocket. So let me take this opportunity to talk about the internal organization of this bag. So it does have like these pockets that are a little bit flatter. So what that means is that if I were to take something like some headphones with some dimension to it and put them in here, like while it does work, you know, you've got maybe like a couple of inches or so of expansion. You know, it's not like really made for something like that. So like if I were to grab, say, a camera body and put that in there, like, again, yes, you can make it work, but it's not really made for something like that. If you're wanting a pocket with expansion, really the only option inside this bag is going to be these bottom mesh pockets. And the thing about having it down at the bottom instead of at the top is you just don't really have quick access to things. You know, like even on this front pocket, ideally you want to have smaller items where you can very quickly get to it. You know, that's kind of why it should be there. But there's no organization. And just like these flatter pockets, it's really just big open pockets. You know, there's no organization for smaller items, like smaller EDC items that you may want to take with you. I mean, I did get some good use out of this top pocket. You know, you can fit keys, earbuds. I'll show that here in a little bit. But because it is so small, once you've put a couple of items in there, then you really have kind of locked off that pocket to being able to put anything else. So let's actually go ahead and start loading this out. While I'm loading this out, I just want to put a quick reminder out there that if you like what I do, if you like seeing more reviews, then definitely like and subscribe. It helps immensely. It lets YouTube know that you want to see more of this content. Or if you want to help support the channel in other ways, you can do the Buy Me a Coffee down in the link below. I can put them into here. You know, that does work. And then I can also put them into this front pocket. They are kind of floating a little bit. Let's get a 16-inch MacBook Pro. That fits in there, no problem at all. Okay, so this might be some essentials that I would have with me for an afternoon. You know, maybe I'm heading to a coffee shop doing some work. I've got my headphones, I've got my notebook, I've got my water bottle, glasses are in there, MacBook. Now here's where we start to run into some trouble. Okay, so maybe I've also got like a small pocket knife with me, and maybe it goes into this top, but I've also got some keys with me, so I guess they can also fit into that top area. They are kind of floating around in there a little bit, but it does work. And maybe I've got a wallet here. I don't really have a good place to keep the wallet. I guess like it can go down there, but now I don't really have access to it. Since I'm taking my laptop out, I'm also gonna want my power bank. So I was able to stuff it down into the bottom mesh pocket there. If I had some other things with me, like I needed some USB cables with me, we're kind of struggling like where to put these things. And that is gonna be the major drawback of this bag. You know, unless you have some specific things in mind that you're wanting to put in here, for me, the things that I carry on a daily basis, there just weren't enough like smaller pockets, and especially smaller pockets with dimension that you could put things into. Let me show how this works as a photography bag. So I'm going to take some of these things out. So I'm going to grab the Lumix S5 2X, and right away I've got a little bit of an issue because there's just nowhere to put a bigger camera. If I were to grab a smaller camera like the X100VI, you know, you might be thinking, can you possibly fit it into the bottom mesh? And yes, you can. It will fit in there. And in a situation where I want to take my camera with me, I really need a backpack to have some type of higher up mesh pocket, or just like a pocket with dimension. So that way, like I can put it here. You know, camera is gonna always be relatively accessible for me. If your intent is just to get to a location and you just need your camera to be transported to that location, you know, that bottom mesh can work. The way that I solved the camera issue was to get a small cube, and this is the Ape case. You can get these off at Amazon for relatively cheap. So now that does give you the flexibility to stick a camera in there, stick a lens. So if your intent is to use this as some kind of photography bag, you're gonna really want some kind of insert or camera cube that can fit into here. The other thing you're gonna run into is gonna be the fact that this does not open clamshell all the way. So if this did do that, you know, it would be nice that you could just lay it flat, you know, open it completely, and then have your gear just kind of sitting there waiting for you. But unfortunately, that's not the case with this bag. So if you do decide to put camera equipment down at the bottom, if you're a camera person, this bag is really going to be a transport it there and open stuff when you get to it kind of bag. But if you're looking at this from, you know, you just need something to transport papers, books, some larger items, you know, like you absolutely could Because this is 20 liters, you absolutely could fit just like an evening of clothing in here. And then you do have like the thinner pockets just for some toiletries or something like that, if you didn't want to take an extra little toiletry bag with you. If you're just looking for something really, really simple that looks really good, and one of my favorite things about this bag is its look. It's just got a very classic look, but somehow still like really, really modern, and I love that about this bag. It's just kind of unfortunate, the situation with like the quick access and the interior pockets being mostly flat. And there is actually a smaller version that just recently came out. I believe it's a 15 liter, but it still has the same general layout as this bag. If I were talking direct to Stubble and Co and there was a V2 version, I would want them to maybe think about figuring out a way to get this zipper to come all the way down so that way it could open up bigger. The other thing I would want is some pockets with some dimension to it rather than all of the flat pockets. And something I would really, really love is like a big pocket here with some dimension, because I would love to be able to get the camera and just stick it right in there, just up above all of my other gear, and still relatively quick access where I can swing the bag around, open the bag, get to my camera, and then put it back. Now, the last thing that I would like to see addressed is this quick access pocket. It would be really nice to have some kind of organization in here for smaller items. I get why they didn't do it, because this pocket is really easily accessible to people you might not want to get in there. But I do think there's a way to address that, either putting some kind of a lock or like a little loop where you could put the zipper into, just to give you that extra peace of mind. It would be nice to have some kind of quick access for yourself. All right, that has been my review. Everything that I do here on the channel is self-supported. So if you like what I do, or if this review was helpful to you, then definitely leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps immensely. It lets YouTube know that people want to see more of this content. If you also want to help support, you can do the Buy Me a Coffee link down in the description below. All right, that's been it for me. I will catch you all in the next one.